Hi everyone, and welcome to the book club review, the official Cartoon Art Center book club. We are reading Selling for Dummies. I almost said we're reading Studying the Masters, and I'm like, hold on a second. We're reading Selling for Dummies, and I am Alicia Dianne. I am your host for today and for every day on Alicia Dianne Art. We're going to be going over what we read this week in this book. It was a heavy read. It took me like many hours, I'll say, to get through these last two chapters. We read chapters 4 and chapter 5. And let's see. 4 was pretty, 5 was pretty okay, but 4 was really, really long. So thank you guys for those of you who read with me. It was a heavy read this week. It was a lot of information. So the first part of this was in chapter 4 was understanding your potential clients, and so he went into so much detail. He went into like understanding different cultures, selling in different countries. Let's see what else he did. Arranging meetings, etiquette. Let's see the types of buyers. I found that to be probably the most helpful part. So he did list off 10 different types of buyers that you might come into. I guess I can go through like what those types of buyers are. So the first one would be the believing buyer. That's the person who has like the faith in you already. The buyer 2 would be freebie Freddy. That's the guy who is always wants a deal, always wants the upper hand. The third one was the purchasing poly. So that would be like the people who are like the buyers of a company, the people who are a little bit more all about the facts. So that one was good. Let's see, number 4 was evasive ed. That's a person you always trying to get a contact with, and they're always like rescheduling. They're always like late, or they always like they're sketchy. They're hard to get a hold of. I definitely have had clients like that. Number 5 is the griping Greg. That is a person that complains about literally everything. And I think one good thing that he pointed out about that is that you don't have to deal with this type of customer if you don't want to, or clients. If they're constantly complaining, you might want to reconsider if it's worth it. Make sure that it's worth your while. If they're like actually bringing something good to your business and what you're doing. So number 6 is he called the analytical Anna. So that's the person who is like a perfectionist, is very skeptical of you, and is like wants everything to be organized and wants everybody to be on top of their game, because if you mess up even the slightest bit, they're going to criticize you. I've had that type of person as well. You might have had to work with somebody like that. I definitely have. Number 7 was the domineering Donna. So that is like the forceful person, the person who's like kind of a know-it-all. That person was like, what else did they say about that type of person? That they might, that you should reaffirm, excuse me, that you need to reaffirm their value. It did give tips on how to deal with each of these types of customers. I'm not going to go through everything because I think that you should actually read the book. But it does go through all 10 types of different customers that you might come across. The number 8 is like the controlling Carl, and that's the type of person that is like very self-important. Thinks it's similar to the domineering Donna type of personality, but you said to like be polite with them. Number 9 is the cynical Cindy. It's kind of also like the analytical Anna. So this one is the first one to say like the person who is afraid of change and they don't want to do anything different than they always have. And they also mentioned you might have like children who are like this. So you might be in an art fair and maybe like you have somebody who's looking at your things, and they have their kid with them, and their kid is like, well, I always like the art that's like this way, and like they're talking about something that's different than what you're doing. So this is like the skeptic sort of. And the number 10 was the drifting Dan. So this is the person that is very short attention span. This is like most people that you might interact with. So it did kind of point to that. And he did give like little techniques of how to potentially deal with each of those types of customers or clients. Another thing is that he dealt with was customer fears. So he listed several different types of fears that your customers might have, like fear of salespeople, fear of failure, fear of owing money, fear of being lied to, fear of embarrassment, fear of the unknown, fear of repeating mistakes, and fear being generated by others. So like other potential customers are saying, oh, I don't know if I like that sort of thing, or I don't like that type of art, or I don't trust illustrators, or whatever. Somebody is in their ear basically just giving them doubts. And so these are the types of fears that people have. It also, I mean, this chapter was really heavy. It even gave like, this one was really helpful. It gave a list of words to replace when you're in any sort of interaction with a client. I think one of the main ones obviously is selling. So you don't want to use that word selling. You want to say get someone involved or help them acquire something. So I thought that was pretty neat. So there's a whole list of maybe like 15 words that he went through that you should replace. Another pretty important one was contract. You should never really use that word contract, which I am totally guilty of. I've always used that word, but you should replace it with agreement. Or what was another word that he used to replace that one? The paperwork. So I mean, just clever things that I wouldn't have thought of because I always have used that language and I never really thought twice about it. But I think the really important thing that he noted was every time you use specific words, they generate images in your client's mind. I mean, this also goes if you're doing a job interview, you want them to picture you in a positive light. So he used definitely taking and paying attention to the types of words you use and the type of words that you shouldn't use. And he gave anecdotes to replace all of them. And he even like went into detail with how to replace those. So I thought that was very good that he didn't just say don't use these words, but he gave you also advice on what to swap them with. So like swap overs. So that was really a great technique. Let's see. I also talked about listening to your clients, the importance of just listening. So you should be asking more questions than you should just be like talking. Chapter 5, selling what your product does instead of what it is. So this one was a lot quicker of a read, but I thought it was pretty helpful with some things. It just basically listed off all the things that you should know, both about what you're selling and the marketplace. So just knowing your industry really well. I think what he was really trying to drill in is that you should know your industry better than your client does. If your client feels like they know your industry better, then they're gonna kind of feel like, well, why do I need you around? If you're not going to contribute, like nothing your client says or your potential person you work with should say something that is a shock to you or something that you have no idea about. You should like it says basically you should be reading all the information about it. You should know the industry, like know where your product is made. If you have something that's being made, we're the artists ourselves, so we should have a little bit of a backstory about our own product and like why we're making it. So it does say like it gives the example of like talking to like whoever created the product, but since we're the artists, we are the ones creating the product, so we should just know like have our little story in the back of our head in case the customer wants to know more about it. We should have like something to say about a story behind what we're making. But he just said don't keep it too long, try to kind of keep it short so that it's not just overrunning. Being a student of what you sell is basically like I was just kind of talking about was just kind of really knowing your industry. So I think that it also includes like trade magazines and different websites, following those, staying up with the trends and like the different things that are happening. So that might be like particular magazines that are related. I know there's like animation magazine, there's like different society groups like Society of Illustrators. So those might be places to plug in and just kind of get information on. If you're even like you might want to know about the different, what are they called, the guilds. I don't know why I forgot that word just now, but the guilds are like things like that you might want to just keep a note on, and also just knowing who your competition is. Like if you're working for a particular studio, like you want to know like what is the competition doing and all of that sort of thing, just to keep you like having like the upper hand when it comes to really knowing what you're talking about. So I thought that was good. It was a long read, but it was really good. I'm learning a lot, I feel like, already from this book, and we're not even halfway through. But it's a lot of information, but it doesn't feel too overwhelming just by the way that things are kind of written out. I mean, I would definitely admit to I've said this like before, like I'm definitely like a noob when it comes to like selling, and like the business side of things have always been like my weakness. I definitely consider myself to be more of a Walt than a Roy Disney. I know that's a very specific joke for a very small group of people, but definitely like Roy knew all the business side, and Walt is just like, well, just make it happen, make it great. And I just like am that creative brain, so I'm trying to train myself to also think business wise. And I hope that you guys are doing that too, especially if you're an artist. Like I said so many times before, I'll say it again. I think every artist is an entrepreneur, so you should definitely know what you're doing and learn about the business side of things, because I think it can only help. Regardless of what area of art, you're gonna have to sell your art to move it out of your house and out of your studio, of your computer into somebody's home, so you can actually, be benefiting people's lives with what you're doing. So that's the whole point of this. We're trying to make the world better through what we're doing, what we're creating. So hopefully this book can also help us to just spread a little bit more of our own creativity and get it to more people. So that's what I'm hoping to get from this. Next week we'll be reading chapters 6 and 7. So I'm going to be like checking and seeing like how many pages we have to read, so that I'm not totally shocked when I start reading. This one is about, let's see, it's from pages 95 to 128. So it's like 30 pages. So just, count out the time that you need. If there's like a particular book page count that you want to read every day, if that helps you like just get through everything and just kind of stay on top of it, that can help. So just in knowing how long it takes you to get through a certain amount of pages. For me, it takes me like an hour to get through about 10 pages. So I just have to keep that in mind. So hopefully you guys keep your reading. I know I'm a slow reader. I have to reread paragraphs, and I take forever. So if you're a slow reader like me, you want to make sure you plan ahead for the next reading. All right, so thank you guys so much for joining me in this book review, Selling for Dummies with Tom Hopkins, and I will see you guys in the next one, okay? So have a great weekend, and until I see you again, be grateful, live balanced, and be yourself. Bye-bye.